is it financial trauma the only thing that you have to clear up in order for you to financially grow with your business? Or there is another strategic part of the equation that you also have to look if you want to increase your net worth in the ways that you want to increase it. We're going to talk about it here today with an expert on managing money, Barbara, as financial advisor, as a wealth management advisor.
Hello and welcome to the Money Mindset Show, the place where we help female entrepreneurs to transform their mind so that they can achieve financial success in the least amount of time. Here, we talk about subconscious mind, we talk about money mindset chips, money mindset blocks, a strategy so that you can bypass your own money mindset and increase your income, better your relationship with money, and grow your business. On this podcast, our unique goal is for you to walk away with a different perspective and with a different set of thoughts, beliefs, and mindset that helps you in your journey to achieve financial success.
Remember those old piggy banks we had as kids, where we will eagerly drop coins hoping to one day have for something big? Yet, as adults, our financial growth feels stuck, no matter how much we put in. That's the same way many female entrepreneurs feel about their business's income. It is like a stubborn piggy bank. But it's finally time to break through that barrier and upgrade that piggy bank into a financial flow that brings you the life that you want. Dive into Money Made Easy and learn how to finally get that serious cash flowing in your business, using proven strategies and clearing money blocks and financial trauma in just 3 months. Go to themoneymindsethub.com/moneymadeeasy for more information and join this transformative program tailored to you and your needs.
Thank you for having me. My name is Barbara Ginty. I am a certified financial planner, and I have a wealth management firm, and I also have a podcast called Future Rich, which is all about empowering women to educate themselves on personal finance and then help achieve whatever their future rich might look like. And that's obviously very different for every person. Yeah, absolutely. So I started it because in my day job in my wealth management firm, and a lot of people know this, we have a minimum of what you have to work with us as a client for our business. And the problem with that is that sometimes there are a lot of people that need help and then they don't really know where to turn. And then the minimums are very intimidating. I will say I have been in the private wealth space for just about 11 years. Before that, I was in institutional finance. I was a derivatives broker on an equity trading floor in Manhattan. And so back then, like 6-7 years ago when I started the podcast or started working on it, there wasn't really the financial coaching space that there is today. And so I did the podcast because it gave me an avenue to help people with their finances who maybe weren't going to meet the minimum or were not ready really for a financial advisor or a CFP professional. And so it's just really grown since then. And I also really wanted there to be a judgment-free place for women to go. And I do think, at least for me, I like to hear what other people are doing. It's always been very interesting to me. And so the format of the show is interesting because I interview women across the country and in Canada. We've had Canadians before. And you hear, which I think is fascinating, how much they're making, where they're living, what they're spending on like rent or mortgage, how they split their finances if they're partnered or not partnered, all sorts of things, savings and debt. And so I found it just really interesting. And then I was able to work with a broader group of individuals and be specific to women. So that was the whole reason I started it. So I think we started on the concept about 7 years ago. Our podcast has been around for 6 years. And gosh, we have like over, I don't even know, maybe 250 episodes. We have a lot. So we have a lot of data at this point. It's been really interesting. It's run the gamut from someone who's $1 million in debt all the way to the opposite, the flip side, to somebody who's making $1 million versus who's borrowed $1 million. Because borrowing $1 million is a very different position to be in. It's a very big debt payment. Yeah. So that was probably the worst thing I've seen in the 6 years is their net worth was like negative 1.3 million, if I'm correct. And they couldn't really support debt. Anywho, so that was really fascinating. They've come out of it. They've done a great job. You have to see how motivated you are to get out of that. And they were motivated to get out. And they still have the debt, but their income is they're better. But anyway, so I started it because I thought it was a really interesting way to help one person individually, but then by being able to listen in on the conversation, you could help hundreds. So everyone's mindset's different with money, and that's on both sides of the equation, right? The person who's giving you the advice, the education, the coaching, who's ever on the other side, versus the person. And a lot of people's mindset or relationship with money, even if they don't realize it, some portion of it is derived from their upbringing, from what they saw as they were impressionable, because you're impressionable when you're a child and when you're growing up. So some of the so it just depends on who you talk to, right? So some people need a little bit of help of rethinking what they're capable of, because like, for instance, we had one woman on the show, and for whatever reason, she was making just really poor decisions with her money. And it wasn't because she was bad with her money, but she had this subconscious belief that she was just going to be poor because that's where she came from. So that was just, I grew up and the attitude was we never have enough. We will never have enough. And so she lived that. She created that in her life situation, which she had the opposite. She was well educated. There was no reason for her to have that mindset at all, except that she adopted what she grew up with, which her parents' mindset was, we don't have enough. We will never have enough. We will always, in their mind, be poor. And that's all relative, right? So poor for one person could be $2,000 a month, and poor for another person could be $20,000 a month. That's a relative. Poor is relative to you and what you want. And so I think the mindset plays a very big component in whether or not you're successful, and understanding your relationship with money from the get-go is important. And if you have any of these subconscious negative beliefs or negative narratives that you are recreating in your life. So that's been really fascinating. And I think that you want to be with a professional who can identify that maybe your behavior has to do a little bit more with psychology, right? Your mindset and relationship with money based on your upbringing or your situation. Because like, if you just looked at the number, if you just looked at this woman's income, she was successful. Her behaviors were poor, right? She needed to retrain herself on her spending habits, her belief around money, and then she would be successful. But if you actually looked at her balance sheet, she wasn't doing great, but she had good income. So it depends on, I think that's the thing that I find so fascinating about this area is personal finance is personal. So what's right for one person is not right for another. It doesn't matter if your financial makeup is identical because of these components, right? Your mindset around money, your relationship to money. You can have literally the same, I could look at two, example A, person B, everything could be identical, but their behaviors are different. And their goals could be very different. So it is a very critical part of understanding how you operate, the narratives that you have, and then making sure those align with your goals. And maybe sometimes you have to change your behavior. No, she would say she was struggling. She said the reason she came on the podcast was because she was struggling with money. The struggle was her behaviors were not aligned with her goals. For example, getting a $15 salad every day was not aligned with where she wanted to be in the future. That's a lot of money that's adding up monthly. That I like salad too, but I don't want to spend 10% of my income on it. So her behaviors just weren't aligning. And because she wasn't monitoring where her money was going and whether those subconscious decisions, or running out every day across the street to the salad bar, she didn't know she was doing it, right? She couldn't, until we went through where she was spending her money, she didn't realize how much money was going towards the salad bar across the street because it was a subconscious. She just went to get salad. Yeah, it's a healthy lunch. It's easy. But then at the end of the month, she's negative. She couldn't figure it out. So, yeah, you'd sometimes need somebody who's able to provide a fresh perspective and like a bird's eye view. It's very hard, even for me, right? So I'm at the point where I will need to hire a financial advisor. Just because I'm someone else's doesn't mean I should be doing my own. Just because having that third party neutral person who's not emotional, who doesn't have those same maybe beliefs that you grew up with, they're there to help you recognize what you're doing. Whether or not you listen is completely up to you. So the financial coaching space has been very interesting. It's grown tremendously over, I would say, the last 10 years. I had never heard of a financial coach 10 years ago. It's really grown. I don't even know what the numbers are, but it's, in my opinion, has grown a lot over the 10 years. It's something I see more prevalently. It's more available on social media. So what I always like to say is I definitely always believe in getting a professional. Like, I go to a dentist, I go to a doctor, I take my car to a mechanic, I use plumbers and electricians. Yes, you can do some things yourself. I think money's a really important thing, and I really think you should pay for a professional. The way I always explain it is a financial coach is a great person to engage to work with when you're in I need to pay off debt and do some of your fundamental stuff, get a budget, start my savings. To me, they can help you build the basics. In my opinion, when you need a CFP or professional, it's when things are going to start getting more complicated. So to give you some broad market. So you have more assets to invest. You have a more complicated investment structure. You're getting retirement benefits at work. You might have stock options, RSUs. You might need securitization of your investments, meaning you might need a line of credit on it. You have a complicated estate plan, so you need someone to review your attorney's work. You need a tax strategy, so you need someone to go to talk to your CPA and figure out if you need a tax harvesting strategy. So when it starts to get a bit more complicated, and when you have the bandwidth at that point, you should be paying, right? Because those missteps then, if you mess that up, those are tens of thousands of dollars of mistakes. So at that point, then I would say, and some people will say when you have discretionary income, you can get a professional. I think just when it gets complicated enough that if you make a mistake, it's pretty material. Yeah. So your mistake is a $10,000 mistake. I would pay $5,000 a year to avoid the $10,000 mistake, because the 5 to 10 you might pay a CFP will save you at least that, if not more, and it'll prevent any of those massive mistakes. Now, and to say that there are other professionals where you could start with them at a lower dollar amount, and that's absolutely true. But if you were to just broad stroke it, I would say debt repayment and getting the habits and the skills and the education to know how to do debt repayment and start budgeting and saving. And then when it gets more complex, where it's more robust investments, more complicated investments like tax strategy, estate planning, high level retirement planning, executive benefits, that's when I would pay for the professional that has those expertise. And a CFP, we focus on estate planning, retirement planning, tax strategy, that sort of, it's insurance. You want to make sure you have good insurance. You don't want to, that's another big mistake. So that's how I would differentiate it. So you get out of school, you have student loan debt, you're still learning, I would do financial coaching. And then as it gets really complex and those missteps are going to be very expensive if you don't do it right, then I would pay for the person who can manage your assets and provide the advice in those very specific arenas. Yeah, a little different. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. No, I agree with you. I think that what I would say is it's really important to hear and listen to what other people are doing, but always remember that you need to tailor it to your situation. So use it as a flag of, oh, somebody else is doing XYZ. So use it as an opportunity to investigate that. But remember, it might not be XYZ for you. It might be XY. So listening is really good, but but educate it and then customize it to you and your situation. Yes, correct. Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at Future Rich Podcast. And then you can also find our podcast on all the major podcast outlets, so Spotify, Apple, and it's Future Rich Podcast. Thank you.
Okay, but before I let you go, did you know that you have a space where your money mindset work is made extra simple so that you can increase your income, better your relationship with money, and grow your business in such a simple and easy way? Go to themoneymindset.hub.com and choose your path and start making those changes easily and effortlessly. That is themoneymindset.hub.com. Ahora sí, Wealthy Soul, if you love this episode, don't forget to leave a review down below. It will help me to help more wealthy souls to transfer their money mindset.